Okay, good afternoon. I've oh, sorry. I will be uploading my session early this morning. There are also review exercises given there, and I will be doing different ones in this session. So please do watch the video. There also it was discussed how to determine if a given equation is a graph of a circle, a point, or an offset. But we will do one such exercise here. So let me do the first uh, exercise I prepared here, practice exercise. Here you're looking for the equation of a circle whose radius is 2 and it passes through 1, 2, and 3, 4. So how do we solve this one? Anyone has an idea? Can you try to analyze the problem first? Try to draw the figure. What is being asked here? Now, let me try my best to draw the figure for this problem. So we're looking for some circle. And this circle passes through 2 points, 1, 2, and 3, 4. There. Moreover, its radius is given to be 2. So that means the distance between the center of the circle and any point on the circle is always 2. That's the definition of the radius. Now, how do we solve this problem? Any idea? Radius is 2. Any suggestion from the class? What are you looking for? The equation of a circle. So how many objects do you need to solve this problem? Anyone? Can unmute? Yes, Mr. Pablo.
Sir, we need to get the center of the circle.
Okay, good. Because we are already given the radius. Now, that sounds simple, but really when you try to get the center, it is not that easy. Any ideas how we can get the center? The radius is given. So remember the center radius form x minus h squared plus y minus k squared plus r squared. If you know r and you know hk, you're done, center. So we only know r. So we need to find the center of the circle. Anyone? You can just unmute your microphone if you want to answer. Those 2 points, somebody suggested, those 2 points make an isosceles triangle. Well, yes. Do we get the midpoint? Mm, well, you can do it that there's a way of solving this one by using the perpendicular bisector of this line segment. This one. because the perpendicular bisector passes through the center, the circle. And you can get the midpoint, and you can get the slope of the chord here, and thus the slope of this line. But we are not given any equation of a circle at all. To be able to use this, you need another equation. So we have to resort to another method. Anyone else? May idea na siya doon sa isosceles triangle. Well, what he means really is this. Since the radius is 2, okay, erase this one. So ito yung idea niya. There. That's 2. That's 2. Now we're getting closer to the solution. Anyone has a further suggestion? Use the distance formula. How will we use the distance formula? Anyone? That's the idea there, guys. You've got to use the distance formula. But how do we apply it? To which? Will we get the distance between these 2 points? Use the distance formula. Is that what you mean? Can you further elaborate? Mr. Let me ask Mr. Fueda. Or Mr. Ramiro, would you like to answer? Would you like to explain? Okay, kasi I think ang idea nyo, yung kukunin yung distance between the center and one of those 2 points. Tama ba? Yes, there. Distance from points 1, 2, or 3, 4 to the center. But to do that, what do we need? We need to assign coordinates to the center, variables. Okay? Kasi wala namang given dito. We can use xy, pero dahil center to, gamitin natin hk. There. And then your suggestion is to get the distance from the 2 points given, okay, and the center. Now, why do we need to do that? What's the main idea really here? We're trying to set up what? Ano talaga yung kalalabasan niya, di ba? Kailangan nating mag-set up ng net. How many are we looking for? Actually, there's only one, center. But the center has 2 coordinates. So how many are we really looking for here? 2, the h and the k. And usually, in algebra, you need to set up an equation. And since there are 2 unknowns, you need 2 equations. And therefore, you're going to set up what? A system. Tama? And it will turn out there. And it will turn out that this is a nonlinear system. So if we do that, okay, let's get the distance from 1 to the center. You will have to use the quadratic formula, distance formula, h minus 1 squared, right? Yung x coordinates, plus k minus 2 squared. Square root. And then that, is equal to 2, since the radius is 2. And then you do it for the other point, 3, 4. Use the distance formula, h minus 3 squared plus k minus 4 squared. Again, since the radius is 2, that's also equal to 2. And what we have here is actually a system which, if solved, will give us the coordinates of the center, and thus the center itself. But this involves roots, so we try to, what do you call this? Rewrite the system so that no roots appear. So you know what to do. You have to just square both sides. Square this one. You do it also for the other. And this is how the system will look like. I square the first one, get rid of the root, the radical, I get this equation. Do it also for the second, square it. H minus 3 squared plus k minus 4 squared equals 4. Don't forget to square the other side. And this is familiar, right? This is just a system of two equations in two unknowns, but nonlinear. In fact, both equations there in the system are nonlinear. So how do we solve this one? Well, we know only two techniques. By the way, in the previous video, which I will be uploading later, there's a system that we solved there where we have to resort to somehow a hybrid between the method of substitution and elimination. Actually, gagamitin pala dito yun. So let's see. Now, for the method of elimination to work directly or immediately, there must be like expressions, but there's none here. If this were h minus 3 squared, that's what I mean. If this one is h minus 3 squared, it's okay. All we have to do is just subtract. But we do not have any like those. H minus 1. So what we can do is try to manipulate each equation. So for example, if we expand the first one, h squared, I'll be rearranging k squared minus 2h minus 4k. Now, this one yung h squared minus 2h plus 1. And then ito yung k squared minus 4k plus 4. So meron kang 1 plus 4. Tama? 1, square mo to, 4. And then if you transpose it to the other side, 4 minus 5, ito yung kalalabasan. This is just algebra that is presupposed not in this course. So you can verify. Basta i-expand mo yan, tapos i-rearrange mo lang kagaya nito. Then transpose mo yung lahat ng constants sa other side, you'll get this one. And you do it also for the other equation here. H squared plus k squared, and then dito, minus 6h. And then dito, minus 8k. Diba twice ng product ng dalawang term. I-multiply mo yan times 2. So meron kang minus 8k. And then square, that's 9. Square, that's 69 plus 16 is 25 transpose. So that becomes 4 minus 25 or negative 21. 35. Now, there are similar or like terms here. H squared plus k squared. The only difference is that you won't get all the variables eliminated. In fact, you will still have h and k remaining. Unlike in the exercises or examples discussed in class, after elimination, right away, we got an equation in a single variable. But here, you won't get a single variable equation, still in two variables. But it will now be linear. And if it's linear, what you can do is solve for one in terms of the other variable. So let's show that. So we subtract the two equations. Minus. If we do that, cancel yung h squared plus k squared, and then negative 2h minus negative 6h. That's plus 6h. So you have positive 4h. Negative 4k minus negative 8k, that's plus 8k, so you have plus 4k. Negative 1 minus negative 21, that's 2. And so it turns out that this is a very simple linear equation since you can just divide everything by 4. And thus you can express one in terms of the other. Doesn't matter which. So let's just express k in terms of h. So it's 5 minus h. Now, what do you do from here? You can use either equation to solve for one of the variables. So you can go back to this one here. You can plug in this k into this one, or you can use one of the equations in the equivalent system. Siguro yan na lang kasi nakasimplify na yan eh. So let me plug in k in the case. Diba may mga k dyan? Ipa-plug in ko to. So itong lalabas. H squared plus 5 minus h squared minus 2h minus 4, 5 minus h equals negative 1. Yan. And then this will just be in a single variable h. So let's see, h squared plus 25 minus 2h plus h squared minus 2h minus 20 plus 4h equals negative 1. Then simplify 2h squared. And then we have negative 2h, negative 2h, and 4h canceling out. Cancel ito. And then you'll be left with 2h squared. And then 25 and 20 minus 20 makes 5. Okay, it's minus 20 plus 4h minus 2h. Okay. So if my calculations are correct, this is what will become of the equation. So 25 minus 20 is 5. Let's just rewrite that. Okay. The problem with this one is does not have a solution. Okay. Kung walang mali sa calculations ko, let me verify one more time. It's 2h. Okay. I think nothing's wrong with my calculations. So, well, if you got an h here, then you will get the corresponding k using this one easily. But so turns out, kasi produkto tong solution na ito, ito pinili ko na beforehand, no, yung mga exercises. So, what is your conclusion here? Kung hindi mali, no such circle exists. Pero parang imposible.
Sir, I think I spotted the correction po.
Saan mali?
So yung 5 minus h squared po, pag in-expand, it becomes 25 minus 10h plus h squared po.
Okay.
I think,
Oo
yeah.
nga, nasanay ako doon sa h minus 1. So, thank you very much. Sige. Ito na yung mali. So, dapat 10h siya. So, hindi magka-cancel yung mga h. So, negative 10h minus 2h, negative 12h, plus 4h is negative 8h. Maki-check pa rin yung aking calculations. Negative 8h And then 25 minus 20, the negative 1. And then quadratic, 2h squared minus 8h plus 6 equals 0. Divide by 2 equals 0. This is factorable. H minus 4h plus 1 equals 0. So you can check negative 4h tsaka 1h is negative 3h. Kailangan mag-positive 4. So it should be 4 wala hindi siya factorable. H squared, sorry, minus 4h plus 3. Okay. So ito ay factorable na. H minus 3 times h minus 1. Okay. So there are two possible answers. 1 or 3 for h. So that means there are two possible centers. So if h equals 1, gamitin lang ito 5 minus h. So k equals 5 minus 1, 4. If h is 3, so 5 minus 3, 2. So the possible answers, 1, 4, and 3, 2. So actually, pag tinignan natin yung figure, pwedeng nandito sa kabila, di ba? Yung center. So bakit dalawa? Yun. So any question on this? So ito, number 2 tayo. The question here actually is to determine whether this one is an equation of a circle, a point, or a null set. Now, I've explained that in a previous video. It's mentioned. Pero, sige, bilisan ko dito. Kasi kapag halimbawa we have x minus 1 squared, diba, plus y plus 2 squared equals negative 1. Let's say you complete the squares and that's what came out. Then the negative number on the right-hand side tells us there's no solution. Since you have a sum of squares and squares are always positive. So that means there's no point that satisfies the equation and therefore its graph is empty or the null set. Now, if it turns out that after completing the squares, you get, let's say, 0, then there is a solution, but there's just one. Only one point satisfies that equation. To make it exactly 0, both have to be 0 since they are squares. So this must be 0 and this must be 0. That means there's only one point on the graph. The single point, 1 negative. So the graph is a single point. Now, it will only have, or it will be an equation of a circle only if after completing the squares, you get something positive here. Any number, as long as it's positive, let's say 1. Then it's still a circle whose radius is square root of 1. So let's do that for this one. So please watch the other video. We complete the squares. So add 1. Add 1. Then yung 8 lipat. Then add 1 plus 1, 2. Then negative yung nakuha. So null set. Okay, ganun lang siya. Any question on this? Next. So medyo challenge problem ito. Points -8, -16, 0, 10, and 12, 14 are the vertices of a parallelogram. Find the coordinates of the fourth vertex if it is located in the third quadrant. Let's plot the points. So -8, -16. Natin dito. 0, 10. And 12, 14. So those are the points. So the fourth vertex makes, okay, if you connect the points or form a parallelogram using those points as vertices, the fourth vertex is chosen so that a parallelogram is constructed. Where should that point be? Now, there are several possible locations of the fourth vertex, but it says in the problem it's located in the third quadrant. So, nasaan yung third quadrant natin? Diba, ito yung quadrant 1, quadrant 2, quadrant 3, quadrant 4. Actually, nung unang tingin ko, ang inisip ko dito eh. Pwede yan. Kaka-form ka ng parallelogram dyan. Pwede yung parallelogram is any quadrilateral whose opposite sides are parallel to each other. Pero nasa ano siya? Third quadrant. So dito. We're looking for this. Anyone has a suggestion? Anyone? Now, I want you to try this solution. This is the fastest way of solving this problem. You count how many units you have to go from this point to this point. Down, or vertically and horizontally. Down, and then to the left. That's also what you do. Down, then to the left. That's very fast. Okay, actually, hindi mo agad maiisip yung solution na yan. Kailangan medyo pag-aralan mo muna yung figure. I want you to try that and compare the answers. Of course, you should get the same. But for the purposes of illustrating the midpoint formula, I will be using the midpoint formula to solve this problem. So how will we use the midpoint formula? So let me denote that by xy, the coordinates of that fourth vertex. Now, actually, kailangan mo dito ng isang property ng parallelogram, which states that the diagonals, anyone knows that? How are the diagonals of a parallelogram related to each other? They are not the same in length, but sino nakakaalam nun? They bisect each other. Ito yung diagonals. They bisect each other. That means that each is divided into two equal parts. So equal to, equal din ito. That means yung intersection point, the intersection point is the midpoint. And we use the midpoint formula. You get the average, tama? You average the coordinates to get the midpoint. Now, let's do it by first using these 2 points. Averaging the coordinates, x, so ito yan x plus 12 over 2, and then y plus 14 over 2. But nothing happens here. But since they bisect each other, this is also the midpoint of these two. So I'm going to use these two and apply the midpoint formula to get the same point. So 0 plus negative 8 over 2. And then 10 minus 16 over 2. 10 plus negative 16 over 2. And this one is negative 4, negative 4. Negative 10 minus 16, negative 6, negative 2. And then since they are equal, the coordinates must be equal. I mean, the x coordinate of the one is equal to the x coordinate of the other, and so with the y coordinates. So I will equate the x coordinates to each other. X plus 12 equals 2. Yung dalawang to, equal sila. Dahil parehong point yan eh. And then the other equation is y plus 14 over 2 equals negative 3. In-equate yung y coordinates. And then, makukuha mo na. 4 minus negative 8. Negative 2. Yun yung idea. Any question?
Sir,
Yes.
I have a question on the previous item. Is it also correct to use the distance formula here?
Mahirapan kang gamitin yung distance formula kasi pag sinabi mong distance, maraming possible points yun na ganun yung distance. So mayroon kang direction na pupuntahan eh.
Oh, okay.
So mahirap, hindi mo siya magagamit talaga. Pwede mong gamitin pa nga dito yung system of equations. Let me explain what I mean. Ito pa yung isang idea dyan. Kunin mo ito. Saan na kayo? Kukunin mo itong equations na to eh. Makukuha mo siya. Makukuha mo rin to. Kasi nga given yung points. And then makukuha mo itong equation ito. And then kukunin mo yung intersection points ng mga lines. Nakuha natin yung idea doon. Solve for the equation of this line. Solve for the equation. Ito kasi intersection siya nito. Saan na yun? Maybe here. Remove lang ko siya na wait. Okay, this is the intersection of this point, of this line and this line. Ayan, okay. Hindi kasi kasya. Redraw natin. Idea lang nang bibigay natin ha. So ito yung unknown. So notice, it's the intersection of this line and this line. Now we can get, kasi given ito eh. Given to, given to, given to. We can get the equation of this line. This one. Makukuha natin. Because those 2 points are given. We can also get this one. Because those 2 are given. Now we can get the equation of this line. Ano nasusundan yun? Paano? Meron siyang point. Given to. Pero, parallel siya dito. So you can get its slope using the slope of this one. So kukunin mo muna yung equation dito eh. And then same thing with this line. You know a point on it, and you can get its slope by getting the slope of this one. And then once nakuha mo to, tsaka ito, so-solve mo yung system para makuha yung intersection. So idea lang naman yung binibigay ko. So next. Find the equation of the line passing through the midpoint of the line segment joining the points negative 3, 2, 1, 6, and whose slope is half the slope of the line through A and B. So medyo direct na ito. So it passes through the midpoint. So parang application lang, no? Direct na paggamit ng mga formulas. So you get the midpoint of AB. Get the averages. So the midpoint has coordinates negative 1, 4. So you have a point on the line. Next, the slope of the line, half the slope through AB. So you get the slope of AB. That's 4 over 4. That's 1. So it's half that. So the slope of the line we're looking for is equal to 1/2. So you have a point, you have the slope. So point slope form. And then mx plus b na. Plus 1/2 plus 4. Yeah. So ito yung mga type ng problems na talagang direkta lang gagamitin yung mga tinuro sa class. Now let's have this one. I want you to think about this one first. Let me read the problem. Find the equation of the line satisfying the following condition. If P is any point on the line, then the distance from P to negative 1, negative 2 is equal to the distance from P to 3, 6. Let's draw the figure first. So let's say this is negative 1, negative 2. And then this one is 3, 6. We want to find a line with the following property. Any point on this line, say P, must have the same distance from those 2 points. So, you know, it has to be somewhere in between. So, kalagi, igigitna mo siya para mag-equal siya. Makaka-form ka ng isosceles, diba? Triangle, parang gano'n. So, any point P on this line is equidistant from the 2 given points. Yun yung property niya. Now, a direct approach, okay, pakita ko muna yung direct approach. Denote the coordinates of any point P on the line by xy, and then we'll get an equation relating x and y. Now, the coordinates of the 2 points are given. So, just as with the first problem, we will set up an equation using the distance formula. Now, AP is the same as PB. They are equal in length. So let's compute AP. Distance formula. And then square both sides, expand. Check kung may mali sa calculations. So several terms cancel out. And then we collect all terms, all variables on one side, all constants to the other side. So 2x and negative 6x transpose 8x. 4y and negative 12y, so magiging plus 12y. Tama ba? Then 1 plus 9 is 10, tapos may 36 sa kabila. 1 plus 4 is 5. And then ito, 9 plus 36 is 45 minus 5, 40. Assuming there's no error in my calculations. Divide by 8, plus y equals 4. Mx plus b4. Okay, tama ba? Square. Okay, sige, tuloy tayo muna. Now, this is the what we call crude method or brute force method of solving this one. Kung saan wala ka talagang analysis na gagawin. But sometimes in mathematics, kasi this math ako, there are solutions that are, let's say, more elegant than other solutions. And we can use geometry to solve this problem. Any idea? If you studied the material, maybe you already, what do you call this? You already know how to solve this one without using this technique. Anyone? Sige, bigyan ko kayo ng hint. Okay. So those are the 2 points. Now, the property of the line is that any point is equidistant from those 2 points. Now, one such point is the midpoint of the 2 points, right? Obviously, the midpoint is on the given the line that is being asked for, since it's equidistant. Now, can you locate another point equidistant from those 2 points? Here's the midpoint. There. Now, I will draw the perpendicular bisector. Now, why did I draw the perpendicular bisector? Because analysis, a little analysis, will show that all points on the perpendicular bisector is or are equidistant. Halimbawa, kuha ko ng any point sa perpendicular bisector. If you use similarity or congruence of triangles, it can be shown that any point on the perpendicular bisector will be equidistant from those 2 points using, or property lang actually ng isosceles yan mapapakita mo naman, isosceles yan. In other words, another way to solve this problem would be to find the perpendicular bisector, which I've discussed or Tama ba? Nag-upload ako ng video lang doon. Asynchronous viewing kasi yun eh. Hindi yun yung live. Previous years yun eh. So, in other words, this is designed to review you on the perpendicular bisector. So how do we get the equation of the perpendicular bisector of 2 points? First, we get the midpoint. We are given the endpoints, or sorry, the 2 points. So M has coordinates -1 plus 3 over 2, -2 plus 6 over 2. So that would be negative 1, sorry, positive 1, 2. And then next, we get the slope of the perpendicular by getting first the slope of the segment. So formula lang yan. So 2. So negative reciprocal, -1/2. Tama ba? And then points law form, ito yung point. Hindi nag-jive yung ano natin. Pareho ba? So +1/2 +2. Parang hindi nagpareho, ano? Tama naman ito. So what happened to our previous calculation? Okay, going back to the previous solution. Ito yung sinet up natin. Ano nangyari? Tama naman, di ba? Cancel. Then let's transpose y na lang on the left-hand side. So what do you have? 4y plus 12y. Transpose everything else on the right-hand side. 1 and 4. 5. 36 and 94.
Sir, to clarify lang po, di ba po yung itatranspose? Hello?
Yes, yes.
Yes, sir. Itatranspose po yung -12y to left 2, di ba? So wouldn't it be +12?
Yes. Oh, doon ako nagkamali kanina. Thank you. Old age. Okay. So 16y, tapos yung 2x, transpose natin, negative 2x, tapos minus 6x, negative ayun, mabas siya. And then plus 4. Then divide by 16. Tama na ba? Divide by 8. There. Any question? Okay, I'll give you 5 or 10 minutes to work this system. Then kung may time pa. Kung may question ngayon sa quiz, as a graded exercise, hindi pwedeng isip. So, the rest, you can work this out. Okay, anyone already got at least one of the coordinates or one of the variables under x and y? Now, you could try to eliminate y squared, but that won't work. If you do that, you'll get an equation in x and y that will make things more complicated. So actually, what you have to eliminate here is xy. So you multiply the second equation by -5. You copy the first equation. Then add. Cancel. Then 13 minus 35 is 22. So down 36, -30. Then you solve for y. Notice what happened here is that you only have an equation in y. Then -66, y squared equals 3. There are two possibilities. Square root of plus minus square root of 3 for y. And you just have to solve for the corresponding values of x. Now you can use either equation. Let me use the second one. It's much simpler than the first. So let me copy that. Here's the second equation. So let me consider y equals square root of 3. So plug in. Now square root of 3 squared is just 3. So plus 21. And then 6 minus 21 is -15. Divide. Now this is acceptable as an answer, but let me rationalize. So -15 square root of 3 over 3. So magiging -5 square root of 3. Then the other case, negative square root of 3. So plug in dito. Then this is also 21. So 6 minus 21 is -15. The only difference is the sign. Solution set. X first. There. Any questions? Now, I won't give any word problem in the first quiz, but just to illustrate the application of systems, you can solve word problems by setting up a system. That's what you usually do when you solve word problems, right? In high school, where you eventually come up with two linear equations, which you can solve for x and y. But sometimes the word problem will result in a system of nonlinear equations, like in this one. The sum of two integers is 24, and the sum of their squares is 306. Now, I won't be solving the problem here. I will just be setting up the system. So this is very easy to represent as a system. So if we let x and y be the numbers, be the integers, then the sum of the two is 24, so that gives you x plus y equals 24. And then the sum of their squares is 306, so easy setup. And then this results in a system which you can solve by substitution. We solve for y in terms of x, then plug in here. Anyone has any question at all before I close the session? So I guess that's it. Yes, well, about the quiz? No, unless it is a file upload type of question. Don't worry about the syntax. I'll be manually checking, and also yung iba doon, naka-fill in multiple blanks. So halimbawa, sige, explain ko na rin. Your answer is to be in the form y equals mx plus b. So in Canvas, you'll see something like this. And you will just have to fill in your values on those blanks. In those blanks, okay? Meron pang tanong? Check. Okay, wala na, so that's it.